And coming to you a little bit in the afternoon. Look, it's last day to close. Well, we got the leap year this year, Andrew, right? So you
Leap
get that
year.
extra day. So somebody gets a birthday tomorrow every 4
Some people
years.
are just turning like 16 or, well, hell, 10,
Yeah, yeah,
for 14. I
yeah.
wish I was born on leap year.
That's
Leap
correct.
day.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Because I'd be divided by 4. I'd be 10. Like 11 years. No, like 12. I'd be 12 years
Yeah.
old right now.
Me too.
Going on
Me too.
13 tomorrow. I'd feel a lot better than that than 52. But anyway, hey, we're coming to you live because it's what we do. It's the Hump Day Holla, affectionately known as Mortgage DNA. And look, a lot is going on. Let's be straight up, Andrew. The reason why our viewers like us is we keep it real, right? Rates, they're not being our friend right now, right? We talk
No.
about peaks and valleys. We're at the peak. This is the Fed. We tried to warn you and advise you of what was happening, and the data doesn't lie, and we're seeing it right now.
Right.
When these rates are back to where they were kind of in the beginning of December, it's a little bit sticky. But that's why I think it's important we make sure that we share with our
Audience.
our viewers. We let them know that doesn't mean you've got to. We are staying the course. We've been telling you this. Nobody's getting a loan right now saying, good, I'm good for the next 30 years. We know a refinance is coming. But I think what a lot of you may not understand, and rightfully so, some of you may be of the age where mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, who 20% was the norm, may be advising you, oh, you can't afford that house because you don't have 20% to put down.
Right.
What we're here to let you know is you don't necessarily have to have 20%, Andrew. So kind of tell them you found that article and it's worth us discussing because we provide options. That's what our job's to do. And we know, look, if you need 20% to be able to afford to get in a home, then we're going to look at that, right?
Right.
But cash is king. So, I thought that article that we looked at and we're kind of discussing before coming on air is really, really pretty cool when you look at the national average down payment. And then, we could even break it down to, my neck of the woods versus yours, man.
So, look, down payment wise, don't forget, you don't have to put 20% down, and you're almost incentivized not to because of the loan level pricing adjustments.
That's right. Great call. Right. Yeah.
But I found this article, and the article was just talking about the median down payment in different states. And like in Ohio, I was shocked. It's actually not that bad. It's about little over $14,500 is the average down payment. So nationally ranking, that's about 11.6% average down payment. Louisiana, you guys have percentage wise the lowest.
Yeah.
At $6,729.
Hey, when you have no Fortune 500 companies and you got no industry,
right?
And you operate on Napoleonic code, man. And if a tree falls down and you got a truck with a hard hat and a chainsaw and you're a tree cutter, hey, this is what you get, right? And that also is why we're blessed here, fortunate. Cost of living, it is a little bit cheaper here, right? So it's 9 point. What was it, Louisiana?
9.2.
Mississippi's 9.6. But let's talk about dollar amount because what does that percentage mean? Well, look, in Louisiana, that 9.2 is $6,729 is your median down payment. Right? So think about that from a number standpoint, audience, DNA Nation. Think about that. So when you start thinking 20% or you hear 9%, dude, $6,729. I mean, you and I, Andrew, if we throw up an OnlyFans, could probably get that in an hour or two.
Sure.
Right?
Now, listen.
Mississippi, a little bit less.
So to put that in perspective, the average median down payment throughout the nation, obviously, it's going to be skewed because there's some higher priced markets, right?
Right.
It's $34,248.
Correct.
That's actually down a little bit from the year prior.
But what do we tell people too, right? It's look outside your window.
Yeah.
That's your real estate market.
That's your market.
I could care less what Kentucky or Alabama or California and all these are. Good for you. Good for you, big roller, high roller. We like where we're at in our market. That's what I'm looking at. And I think it's pretty comfortable. But what you also, Andrew, I think as I go through this article, and I'm just perusing this here pretty quickly, I think you got to be careful of what people talk. You know, we've got grandma and grandpa, aunt and uncle telling us you need 20% down. Right. And then you've got, you know, where people are trying to tell you, and you got to watch. Again, this is why you listen to me and Andrew. We're about facts, not necessarily headlines, right? So you want to look at, hey, the average median down payment was $34,000 in Q2 of 2023, down from $35,000.
Right.
Well, okay, that sounds good. Then you kind of start looking at, Andrew, where's that number at that we were talking about, man, that I just don't like to, that I think is worth mentioning. Where's that number they were talking about, man, where it was 22% or something like that in 2021 was the average down payment, right?
Right.
So in 2022, the average down payment was like 22%. Okay, well, and that's for rebuyers, right? For folks who are buying again.
Right. Non-first-time home buyers.
Let me clarify why it's so high. Well, because you sold your house, made money on it, and you were coming to buy a new house. So you took that money, dumped it in because now you're buying more house and maybe your payment's less.
Cheat
because
code,
you're
right?
putting that bigger down
Ultimate
payment.
cheat code is having equity to put down, right?
Correct.
So
right.
Get
And
in
then
the game.
In 2021, it was 30-something%. Well, what was happening in 2021? Rates were at 2.5%, 3%. People were buying houses, cash, doing all that. So naturally, yeah, you were doing that. We're not seeing that anymore.
No.
I guarantee you, we read this article next year at this time, and we'll have to flag this Forbes folks here. You read this next year, the number is going to be lower because the rates are higher. So you're doing whatever you can to get into the home.
Houses are going to cost more too, though.
That's right.
So it's going to keep going up. No matter
Correct.
What. Imagine if the rates really take a drop. I mean, it's going to just, I can't even imagine what the appreciation is going to be.
Well, and look, I just had a conversation with a client who called because they just got their escrow analysis done. And they're like, I mean, my payment since we did this loan, now this is a VA client that's got 2.25 and said, my payment's going up almost $300, $400 since we've done this. I'm like, it's because you live in Louisiana and you're looking at insurances. I said, newsflash. Guess what? It's going to go up again because this is an assessment year for us in Louisiana every 4 years. Your house is worth more now than it was 4 years ago.
Sure.
So expect your property taxes to go up. So that's why, again, look, owning a home, there's things that come with it, but that's why we talk about cash is king. Let's get you in for the least amount possible. Let's get you into enjoying the equity. And he's like, well, gosh, if I'd have known my payment was going to go up $300 a month, I'm like, your home value's gone up over $75,000 in 4 years. He goes, oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Right. It's going to increase regardless of how much you put down. Doesn't matter. It always goes the same.
Correct. And so what I'd like to share, Andrew, is I think so let's say if you're looking at, a month ago, we were talking at 6.9. Now we're talking 7.25. And I'm throwing a number out. That's a difference of about $50 a month. So it maybe affects your buying power a tad. You can still buy. So I had somebody this week go, hey, I'm going to stop looking because the rates ticked back up. But I tried to explain to them, if you pay that $50 for 2 years, right? What are you putting in versus how much you're going to make when you're refinancing?
Sure.
So I know it's tough. I know it's a lot to kind of take in, but down payment, make sure you get with your lender and you ask questions. What are some options, right? The CCM Smart. Hey, CCM Smart Start. How great is that, right? I mean, hey, you put up 2, we'll match it with 1. I mean, so there's some opportunities there.
Right. And then Fannie Mae just came out with that. So for the low income people, that's an extra up to $2,500, right?
That
came out. So you can get that, but the Smart Start. So first time home buyers, there's no strings attached.
And
Grants
and it's not, hey, you got to live in this house for 10 years or else, right?
Nothing.
But
It's
here,
free.
This backs up, Andrew, I think what we've been saying, and I always like to use data. 26%. 26%. One out of every four houses. One out of every four houses in January. In January, sold for over asking price. 26%.
And that's winter, right?
Right? Over
Winter.
asking in this market, higher interest rates. Okay? That's up 8% pre-pandemic. But here's why, listeners. Here's why. Inventory is down 40% pre-pandemic, meaning from 2019. Right?
40%.
40%. There's almost half the houses available.
Right.
And it's because, as we've talked about on here, that locked in. I ain't selling my house. I got 3%. I'm not doing that. Or I'll rent that when I go buy this. Well, that's a house that's not hitting the market.
Nope.
So that's inventory that's not there, which is why we're still seeing home prices go up. Are you seeing what are refinances looking at like in your world, Andrew?
I'm starting to get just some conversations going.
Yeah.
I haven't had that yet, but they're starting.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people asking me about home equities, right?
Yeah.
How does a home equity work? Great option. However, you got to understand, if you are going to do a home equity and then eventually try to refinance it, because it is variable, it's considered a rate or cash out down the road. So you're limited to your loan to value. So just be cognizant of when trying to go and take out as much as you can. If you're going to do that, try to pay off your debt and then worry about it later, because that is an unforgiving tool. If you use it properly, it's a good tool to have. Right?
I look at HELOCs as, and I say it all the time, it's the devil in disguise. It looks good. That teaser rate they give you up front looks good, right? And then that variable stuff. And what we mean by variable it's not fixed for a certain amount. It's
not fixed.
It's not fixed at all. So that rate every month you get a statement in, it's playing Russian roulette. How much is my payment this month?
Right.
So it's hard to budget. So you've got it. That's what you've got to look at. I can tell you, Andrew, right now, I'm starting to have a lot more conversations as we talked about. In February is usually because all the Christmas cards, all the Christmas bills, those credit card statements start coming in. And I mean, we're saving people hundreds. I've got a guy right now. I can't wait to call back. Luckily, free and clear home. But it got away from him. Business owner, some stuff got away from him. I'm going to save him $3,500 a month. That's life-changing.
Is that like the most you've ever? What's the most you've ever saved? That's I don't think I've ever saved.
This might be an all-time high. I know I've had some people at $2,700, $3,000, but this is, I mean, it's pushing almost $4,000 in savings. So when you go, you think this guy's going to care that he's getting 7.5%? Probably not.
No.
Because I'm going to show him too. Hey, out of the $4,000 you're saving, take $2,000 of that, enjoy yourself. And the other two, let's put it back towards the loan. And in reality, here's what you're paying, right?
Yeah.
So, some opportunities there. So,
well, again, it's credit, debt. It's all, saving. It's all habit. So, guys, no matter what you do, just hopefully, if you did put yourself in a pickle, it was a one-time, one-off thing, and you can't, unless you're like East Coast or West Coast, you can't constantly be refinancing every 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah.
We have that get out of jail free card right now that we might have for the next couple of years where it's going to keep appreciating, but you got to learn your lesson. Hey, how about this? What are some things that you tell when people call up and they want to refinance?
Yeah.
I usually tell them 3 things that I don't want them to do when refinancing. And my 3 are: don't pull the money out to get married. Don't pull the money out to pay off a car, right? And, or vacations, right? Like it's just, you can kind of lump that in weddings together, but everything else, I think it's something to think about. What about you?
Mine is, look, don't take this money out to go invest, right? To go buy Bitcoin, right? Okay. Or something like that, right? And
what about the stock market? No. You don't feel good about that?
No, I don't. No, I just don't, because that's not guaranteed. right? So that's not something that I like. And especially in this environment, am I going to go get 6.5%, 7% to go put it in a CD getting 5%? That's kind of silly, right? So, those are things that I look at. But at the end of the day, it always comes down to is loyalty is to your pocketbook, right? That is period, end of day. And it does not matter what you or I think. What I tell that client is, if somebody tells you, oh, it's not worth it, you're not saving 1% on your rate or this and that. At the end of the day, if I'm a parent and I need to borrow against my house because I'm going to put little Johnny in a college or a high school that I believe in, and I have a plan for little Johnny or little Sue, then you got to do what you got to do to take care of family.
Yeah. I mean, that's investing in the future. So I'm okay with that.
And you've worked hard for the house. So let that house work for you. And at the end of the day,
but you can't let it work for you, and you can't have these cheat codes if you don't own. So
that's correct. That's great. That's a great point.
I just think that the youth, especially, you can't write off not owning. Like it is totally obtainable.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's not that house that you're living in now, but guess what? Your parents didn't live in that house they lived in now. They started with the starter home. We got to go back to get into a starter home and pay it, then move up. And people got to realize that that's okay. And I don't know what it is. Like, it used to be what, like every 7 years, people would refinance or move.
Now it's 12.
Now it's 12.
Now it's 12, right? So people are staying in a little longer. Again, that affects inventory. And go back to your medium down payment, 24 to 32. Median down payment for that age group is 8%. 33 to 42 is 11%. 43 to 57 is 10%. 58 to 67 is 20. Okay. Because chances are they're reselling. They also have had longer to save.
Yeah.
Right?
And more equity built up, probably.
68 to 76 is 21. So from 58 to 76, it doubles in down payment. Right? So maybe you've got more. You've sold a house. You've,
sold a couple
homes. And so that's just to kind of line up exactly what we're saying. But don't get caught in thinking you have to have 20% to buy a house in today's market.
I just did a video with Susan Schaefer, my rep from National Mortgage Insurance.
Yeah.
And, pretty interesting. But, the root of it was, look, y'all, you have options. If you're going to do mortgage insurance, if you're not going to put down the 20%, which, again, I don't really advise right now, but you could have monthly mortgage insurance or you could buy it out for a premium. You can do that.
Yeah.
So, and there's like lender paid mortgage insurance that we can do too. So it's really not that bad of a word. It's not an ugly 4-letter word.
It's not a 4-letter word anymore, especially in today's market, right? Especially in today's market.
You just have to ask, like, well, what is that? Like, and once you break it down, and I think that sweet spot's at 10% or more. You're putting down 10% or more, your MI won't be as bad, but it's not that bad. Look it up, see what it's about, and just consider what it is right now. It's going to be temporary, just like the rate, because you're going to refinance in the future, and that's going to increase your equity. So that's going to make sure that your loan to value is going to go down, so that the mortgage insurance will be less, if maybe all together eliminated.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I want to make sure that we reiterate is we cannot give you a home that you can't afford.
Right.
You may be not comfortable with it, but what you can buy and what you can afford, what you're willing to pay is two different things. So always understand that. When we go, here's your payment, I'll give people, I can't afford that. You asked me to give you your buying power. Here's what you can afford.
Right.
And if you're not comfortable with that, let's look at a number that you're comfortable with, and then we can work within those parameters, right? But just keep in mind, if you got to have mortgage, we're not ever going to give you a number that we hope you get a raise or we hope something comes down the road where you
hope doesn't pay the bills, man.
That's right.
I agree.
That's right. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Right on. Oh, good stuff this week.
Always, man. I think so. And always a pleasure. Glad you're looking good. You're sounding much better than last week. Glad to have you almost back to full strength, brother. And, we'll keep coming on. Keep on keeping on. Hey, follow Andrew Makovic, all his social media sites. Just Google him. myself, Mortgage Gumbo. Check it out. If you got questions, shoot us an email. We're easy to find and be more than happy to.
Check them out on Saturday, guys.
Yes, please check me out. You got it.
When and where? Come on,
When
don't
and
leave
where?
them hanging.
Hey, Mortgage Gumbo, Dad Cam, Saturdays, iHeartRadio, 99.5 WRNO, or the iHeartRadio app. For those who are following Andrew, just go to the iHeartRadio app, type in Mortgage Gumbo, and boom, we'll pop up.
You can find them on Facebook too. They can listen to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll
So,
go live
guys,
on
if you got
Facebook.
nothing better to do on Saturdays, give them a call and give them a hard time.
Check it out. You got it. All right, big dog.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, man.